Welcome back to the deep dive. You guys sent us a ton of stuff about these weird drones over Nebraska.
Yeah.
News clips and videos, even some 911 call logs.
Oh,
It seems like everyone wants to know what's really going on out there.
Right.
Beyond what the government is telling us or
not telling us.
Yeah, exactly. And let me tell you, it gets
Yeah,
strange.
it does.
We're talking large drones,
Mm-hmm.
totally silent drones, drones that are like harassing livestock.
Really?
Oh, yeah, and even drones over schools.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is.
So let's just dive right in,
Okay.
okay? What I find so fascinating about all this is how it's like evolved over time.
Right.
This isn't just like a recent thing.
Bro.
This story goes back years.
It does.
So to really understand what's happening in Nebraska like right now,
Yeah.
we kind of need to like rewind a little bit.
Okay.
Back to like 2019, 2020.
Yeah, that's when the first wave of sightings started popping up.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so tell me about that. What was happening back then?
So starting in 2019, multiple counties across Nebraska, they started reporting these strange drones.
Okay.
And it wasn't just like a few reports here and there. We're talking hundreds.
Hundreds of reports.
Hundreds.
This is like a full-on phenomenon.
It's a big deal.
Wow. Okay, so I have to imagine the fact that these sightings were happening in rural Nebraska kind of adds to the mystery a little bit.
It does. It's important to remember the setting here. We're talking about Ord, Nebraska.
Okay.
Small town, low population density,
Yeah.
very little light pollution.
Yeah,
Not much air traffic either.
right.
Basically the ideal location if you want a clear view of the sky.
So you're saying right off the bat, we can probably rule out those common explanations?
Yeah, the usual suspect.
Like, oh, I saw a weather balloon.
Right, or it was just a plane.
Yeah, or like a satellite or something.
Exactly. Those explanations don't really hold up in this case,
No.
especially when you consider what people were actually describing.
Okay, so paint us a picture here. What were people seeing back then?
Witnesses describe drones flying incredibly low, sometimes just a few feet off the ground,
Wow.
often moving in formations, almost like a coordinated fleet.
Like a fleet of drones.
Yeah, almost like they were working together.
Okay.
And get this, many of them were described as completely silent.
Silent. How is that even possible? Like, doesn't a drone
I know it's strange,
have to make noise to
especially the big ones.
to fly?
Exactly.
Huh.
For something that size, to be flying around making absolutely no noise,
Yeah.
that suggests technology that's far beyond anything that's publicly known.
So we're talking some serious next level stuff here.
Definitely.
No wonder people were freaking out.
I mean, I'd be freaked out too.
Right. Okay. So it wasn't just like random people calling in UFO sightings.
No.
Right.
A lot of these reports came from people who, you'd consider credible.
Okay.
We're talking trained observers,
Yeah.
law enforcement professionals.
Like Chris Grooms, the former police chief in Ord.
Exactly. He had a pretty chilling encounter back in 2019.
Didn't he? Yeah. Tell me about that.
So Grooms was out near the local co-op tower,
Mm-hmm.
and he sees this drone just zip past him.
Okay.
He said it covered like a huge distance in just seconds,
Oh, wow.
moving with a speed and agility that was just like nothing he'd ever seen before.
And remember, this is coming from a guy with years of experience.
Yeah, he's a trained observer.
Right. He knows what he's looking at.
You'd think so.
And it wasn't just the speed that was creepy, it
Uh-huh.
was the silence,
Yeah, he said it made absolutely no noise.
which just doesn't add up,
It doesn't.
given how big and fast it was.
Right, what kind of technology could even do that?
I mean, I don't know, but it's a good question.
It is.
And Grooms isn't the only one who's talking about this, eerie silence.
Right, it comes up again and again in these reports.
Almost like it's a signature
Yeah, like a calling card.
of these things.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that really sets these sightings apart from your typical drone activity.
Makes you wonder what they're capable of, right?
It does.
It's not just former Chief Grooms who had a close encounter.
No, there's also that story about the sheriff
Oh, yeah.
who was seemingly targeted by one of these things.
Right, he was trying to get a closer look.
He had his spotlight on it,
Yeah.
this big silent drone, and suddenly,
It shined a light right back at him.
yeah, he said it was like daylight.
Wow.
This intensely bright light just lit up his whole vehicle.
And he was sending a message.
Yeah, almost like a warning.
Okay, that is creepy.
It's definitely unsettling.
So, we have these strange drones. They're silent, they're fast, they're flying in formation. They
Right.
seem to know they're being watched.
Right.
And all this is happening years before the stuff that's been making headlines recently.
It is.
Yeah, this
It-
is just the beginning.
Things are about to get even more interesting.
Oh boy.
Fast forward to today, And the activity over Nebraska has only intensified.
Okay, I am on the edge of my seat.
Whatever was happening back then, it's evolved.
Okay.
Become even more brazen.
And we don't just have eyewitness accounts anymore, right?
No, now we have actual video footage
That's right.
of these mysterious drones.
You've been analyzing some of this footage, and I gotta say some of it's pretty compelling.
It is.
Yeah, so tell me about that.
Well, there's this deputy in Valley County, Jade Stidham.
Okay.
She's been capturing some pretty remarkable videos,
Okay.
many of which have been corroborated with radar data from Flight Radar 24.
Okay, for those of us who aren't aviation experts.
Right.
What is Flight Radar 24 and how does it help verify these sightings?
So Flight Radar 24, it's basically a global flight tracking service.
Okay.
It provides real-time information about thousands of aircraft around the world.
Wow.
It uses a network of ground-based receivers that pick up ADS-B signals,
Okay.
which are basically location broadcasts from aircraft.
Gotcha.
So by comparing the drone sightings with the data from Flight Radar 24,
Yeah.
we can rule out any conventional aircraft or drones that might be operating in the area.
So it's like a cross-reference system to see if anything officially logged could explain what people are seeing.
Right, exactly.
And in these cases, the radar data just doesn't match up
It doesn't
with the drone sightings.
No. In many of these videos, you see multiple drones
Okay.
moving erratically, sometimes changing direction abruptly,
Mhm.
or even disappearing and reappearing in different parts of the sky.
Wow.
And yet, the Flight Radar 24 data shows little to no air traffic in the area at that time.
That's strange.
It is.
It's almost like these drones are trying to avoid detection.
Yeah, like they're intentionally staying off the radar.
Okay, what are some of the other details you found interesting in these videos?
One thing that really stands out is the variation in brightness and color.
Okay.
Some of these drones appear as like bright, steady lights, while others seem to pulsate or change color.
So it's not just one type of drone?
No, it seems like there are multiple types of objects, maybe even different technologies at play.
Okay, that makes this whole thing even more complicated.
It does, and it raises some big questions. Like who's behind these operations?
Yeah.
And what are their objectives? I mean,
Right.
what could possibly explain this level of technological sophistication and this apparent disregard for airspace regulations?
Yeah, those are the million-dollar questions.
They are.
And I gotta admit, after seeing some of this footage myself,
Yeah.
it's hard not to get caught up in the speculation.
I know it's easy to jump to conclusions,
Right.
but we need to approach this with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay.
We have to consider all the possible explanations,
Even the ones that seem far-fetched.
even those.
All right, let's put on our critical thinking caps here.
Okay.
We've already ruled out conventional aircraft and drones because the radar data.
Right.
So what else is on the table?
Well, some people have suggested that these could be advanced military drones,
Okay.
perhaps being tested in secret by the U.S. government
Right.
or even a foreign adversary.
So we're talking top secret tech, way beyond what we see in the public domain.
Exactly, and the government's reluctance to provide any clear answers.
Right.
It just fuels this speculation.
I mean, if these were just routine military exercises,
Right.
wouldn't it make sense to be more transparent about it?
You'd think so, but then again,
Yeah.
governments aren't exactly known for their openness
No, they're not.
when it comes to classified information.
That's for sure.
But, okay, let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay.
If these are military drones,
Yeah.
why would they be operating in such a public way?
Right.
Wouldn't they want to keep these tests under wraps?
That's a good point.
Maybe the technology is so advanced that they're not worried about being observed.
Okay.
Or maybe they're trying to gauge public reaction.
It's like a test run for something bigger.
It's possible?
I don't know. It's also strange.
It is. There are a lot of unknowns.
A lot of unanswered questions.
And it seems like the more we learn, the more mysterious it becomes.
It does.
That's often the case with these sorts of phenomena.
Yeah.
They challenge our assumptions
Yeah.
and make us confront the limits of our understanding.
So if it's not secret military tech,
Right.
what else could it be?
Well, there are those who believe we might be dealing with something even more extraordinary.
Uh-huh.
Some people have even put forward the idea
Okay.
that these drones could be of extraterrestrial origin.
So we're talking aliens.
We are.
Okay, I have to admit that's a pretty wild theory.
It is.
But is there anything that actually supports that idea?
Well, consider the evidence.
Okay.
We have objects displaying technology that seems to defy our current understanding of physics.
Yeah.
They're silent, incredibly fast. They can appear and disappear at will,
That's true.
and they're demonstrating a level of awareness and intentionality that's hard to explain away as simple drones or even advanced military technology.
So you're saying if we're talking about technology that far surpasses our own,
Right.
it's not unreasonable to think it might not be from this planet.
Exactly.
But if that were the case, what would aliens be doing flying drones over Nebraska?
Their motives are anyone's guess.
I guess so.
Maybe they're observing us,
Okay.
studying our behavior, collecting data.
Right.
Maybe they're just curious about our planet
Okay.
and our civilization. Or
Yeah.
maybe their intentions are something we can't even begin to comprehend.
That's a lot to think about.
It is.
So we've got secret military tech on one hand, aliens on the other.
Right.
Are there any other explanations that have been put forward?
Of course, there are those who believe this is all just mass hysteria,
Okay.
misidentified objects,
Right.
or even elaborate hoaxes.
But those explanations don't really hold up
They don't.
when you consider the evidence.
We're at the sheer volume and consistency of the reports,
Yeah.
the credibility of the witnesses,
Yeah.
the compelling video evidence that's been captured.
Yeah, it's one thing to dismiss a single sighting as a weather balloon or a flock of birds,
Right.
but when you have hundreds of reports from different locations, all describing similar phenomena, it becomes much harder to write it off as simple misidentification.
It does.
And when you add in the radar data,
Right.
that contradicts conventional explanations,
It becomes clear that we're dealing with something truly out of the ordinary.
something that demands further investigation.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, if the government isn't being forthcoming with answers, and if we can't definitively say whether we're dealing with advanced military tech or something even more exotic,
Yeah.
where does that leave us? How do we even begin to unravel this mystery?
That's the question that has been plaguing researchers and investigators for years.
Yeah.
But I think the first step is to acknowledge that there is a mystery here,
Okay.
something that defies easy explanations.
To admit that we don't have all the answers.
Exactly. And once we accept that,
Yeah.
we can start to ask the right questions
Okay.
and demand more transparency from those in positions of power.
I like that. Don't accept the easy answers.
Right.
Keep asking questions, demand transparency.
It's a good mantra
Yeah, it is.
for any investigation, but especially one as complex and baffling as this.
But where do we go from here? What are the next steps in this deep dive?
We were talking about how to approach this whole drone thing, with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right, like we want to be open-minded, but we also don't want to just jump to conclusions.
Exactly. We need to consider all the evidence,
Yeah.
even the evidence that might challenge our, preconceived notions.
So are you saying we need to embrace the unknown?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, we're living in a time of unprecedented technological advancement.
That's true.
The lines between science fiction and reality are getting blurrier every day.
Yeah, no kidding.
We need to at least be open to the possibility that what we're seeing in Nebraska is something genuinely new.
Something that changes how we understand the world.
Exactly.
It's a pretty profound thought, but it's also kind of overwhelming.
I get that.
Like, if we can't even get a straight answer from the government about what's going on,
Right.
how are we supposed to make sense of this on our own?
Well, that's where the power of collective inquiry comes in.
Okay.
We don't have to rely on official sources for information.
You're right.
We have the internet, we have independent researchers,
Yeah.
we have all these organizations dedicated to uncovering the truth about these phenomena.
So it's about citizen investigation, people taking matters into their own hands.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we have a right to know what's happening in our skies.
Yeah.
And it's about holding those in power accountable.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
This isn't just about drones over Nebraska.
No, it's not.
This is about something much bigger.
It is.
It's about questioning the status quo, demanding transparency, embracing the possibility that our world might be a lot more mysterious than we ever imagined.
I think you've got it.
Okay, wow, so these drone sightings are like a wake-up call,
I think so.
a reminder that we don't have all the answers.
And that there's still so much out there we don't understand.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners?
Keep looking up. Keep asking questions. Don't be afraid to challenge the official narrative.
I like that.
The truth is out there.
It is.
It's waiting to be discovered.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll finally have those answers we're looking for.
I hope so.
Until then, keep exploring the unknown. Keep questioning the impossible.
That's what we do here.
And remember, there's always more to discover on the deep dive. Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive, eyewitness accounts, video footage.
Yeah.
We've even talked about some pretty out there theories.
We have.
But now I think it's time to ask, the big question. what does it all mean?
Well, I think for me, it means we need to reevaluate some of our assumptions
Okay.
about what's possible,
I mean,
both in terms of technology and our place in the universe.
so you're saying these drone sightings are like challenging our understanding of the world?
I think so, yeah. We're seeing objects that exhibit capabilities
Yeah.
that are far beyond anything we've ever publicly acknowledged.
Silent flight, hypersonic speeds, erratic movements, the way they seem to just disappear from radar.
Yeah, it's not easy to explain away.
No, it's not. And yet, that's exactly what a lot of people are trying to do. We've talked about the debunker dilemma,
Right.
those who are so quick to jump in with explanations like weather balloons or misidentified aircraft.
I think it's important to remember the difference between healthy skepticism
Okay.
and outright denial.
Right.
Skepticism is important in any investigation,
Yeah.
but it should be based on, evidence and critical thinking, not on a desire to maintain the status quo.
So how do we walk that line?
Right.
How do we approach this with healthy skepticism, but also remain open to the possibility that we might be dealing with something truly extraordinary?
It's a tough balance.
It is.
I think we need to be willing to consider all the evidence,
Okay.
even the evidence that challenges our preconceived notions.
Yeah.
We need to ask tough questions, even if they make us uncomfortable. And we need to be prepared to accept that the answers might not be what we expect.
You're saying we need to embrace the unknown?
Exactly. I mean, we're living in an age of incredible technological advancement.
That's true.
The lines between science fiction and reality are becoming increasingly blurred.
Yeah, no kidding.
We need to be prepared for the possibility that what we're seeing in Nebraska
Yeah.
is something genuinely new, something that forces us to rethink our understanding of the world.
It's a pretty heavy thought.
Is
And I'm not gonna lie, it feels kind of overwhelming.
I get it.
Like, if we can't even get a straight answer from the government,
Yeah.
how are we supposed to figure this out on our own?
Well, that's where the power of collective inquiry comes in.
Okay.
We don't have to rely on official sources for information.
We've got the internet, independent researchers,
Exactly.
organizations dedicated to, figuring this stuff out.
It's uncovering the truth.
Yeah, so you're talking about citizen investigation,
I am.
people taking matters into their own hands.
It's about recognizing that we have a right to know what's happening in our skies. And it's about holding those in power accountable.
Okay, I think I'm getting it now. This isn't just about drones in Nebraska.
No, it's not.
It's about something much bigger.
It is.
It's about questioning the status quo, demanding transparency,
Yeah.
and, like you said, embracing the possibility that our world is a lot more mysterious than we think.
I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Wow. Okay, so these drone sightings are like a wake-up call,
Yeah, a reminder that we don't have all the answers.
and that there's still a lot out there
A lot
you don't understand.
that we don't understand.
Okay, so for our listeners,
Yeah.
the people who have been with us on this deep dive
Right.
into the drones over Nebraska, what's the takeaway?
Keep looking up, keep asking questions. Don't be afraid to challenge the official narrative.
The truth is out there.
It is, and it's waiting to be discovered.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks.
And hey, maybe someday we'll finally have those answers we're looking for.
Maybe.
But until then, keep exploring the unknown. Keep questioning the impossible.
Always.
And remember, there's always more to discover right here on The Deep Dive.